field, and he got down on the ground and put his head near my foot. I understood that he was thanking me, and I tried to show him that I was his friend. I began to teach him to speak English, and soon he could say his name, Master, and yes and no. How good it was to hear a man's voice again. Later that day, we went back to my first house. We went carefully along the beach, but there were no boats and no wild men. Just blood and bones all over the sand. I felt ill, but Friday wanted to eat the pieces of men's bodies which were still on the ground. I showed him that this was terrible for me, and he understood. When we got to my house, I gave Man Friday some trousers, and I made him a coat and a hat. He liked his new clothes very much. Then I made him a little tent to sleep in. But for a few weeks, I always took my gun to bed with me. Perhaps Friday was still a wild man, and would try to kill me in the night. At first, Friday was very afraid of my gun. Sometimes he talked to it and asked it not to kill him. Friday was a quick learner, and his English got better day by day. He helped me with the goats and with the work in the cornfields, and soon we were good friends. I enjoyed teaching him, and most of all, having a friend to talk to. This was the happiest of all my years on the island. Friday and I lived together happily for 3 years. I told him the story of my adventures and about life in England, and he told me about his country and his people. One day we were at the top of the highest hill on the island, and we were looking out to sea. It was a very clear day, and we could see a long way. Suddenly, Friday began to jump up and down, very excited. "What's the matter?" I said. "Look, Master, look!" Friday cried. "I can see my country. Look over there." I looked, and there to the northwest, between the sea and the sky, was a long, thin piece of land. I learnt later that it was the island of Trinidad, and that my island was in the mouth of the river Orinoco on the north coast of South America. I began to think again about escape. Perhaps Friday wanted to go home too. Perhaps together we could get to his country. But what then? Would Friday still be my friend? Or would his people kill me and eat me? I took Friday to the other side of the island and showed him my big canoe. It still lay under the trees. It was very old now, and there were holes in the wood. "Could a boat like this sail to your country, Friday?" I asked him. "Oh, yes," he answered. "A boat like this can carry a lot of food and drink." "Then we'll make another canoe like it, and you can go home in it," I said. But Friday looked very unhappy. "Why are you angry with me?" he asked. "What have I done?" Why do you want to send me home?" "But I thought you wanted to go home," I said. "Yes, but you must come with me. Kill me if you want, but don't send me away from you." Then I saw that Friday was a true friend, and so I agreed to go with him. We began work on the canoe at once. Friday chose the tree himself. He understood wood better than I did, and we cut it down. We worked hard, and in a month the boat was finished. 2 weeks later, it was in the sea, and we began to get ready for our long journey. Chapter 8. Escape from the Island. I was now in my 27th year on the island, and I did not want to be there for another year. We worked hard to get the corn in and to make a lot of bread. We had dried fruit and salted meat and big pots to keep water in. One evening, Friday went out to look for a turtle for meat and eggs. But in less than an hour he was back, and he looked very afraid. "Master! Master!" he cried. "There's a great ship near the island, and men are coming to the shore in a boat." I jumped up and ran with him down to the shore. To my great surprise, I saw that it was an English ship. But why was it here? English ships never came this way. Perhaps they were pirates. "Don't let them see you, Friday," I called. "We'll hide in the trees and watch." There were 11 men in the boat, but 3 of them were prisoners. Their arms were tied with rope, but their legs were free and they could walk. The other sailors pushed the 3 prisoners up the beach, laughing and shouting and hitting them. Then some of them sat down on the sand and began to drink. Others walked away to look at the island, and 2 men stayed to watch the boat. The 3 prisoners walked slowly along the beach and sat down under a tree not far from us. They looked very unhappy. Very quietly, I came up behind them through the trees and called out to them in English. "Don't be afraid," I said. "I'm an Englishman. Perhaps I can help you." The 3 men turned and looked at me. They did not answer at once. They were too surprised. Perhaps they thought I was a wild man myself, in my strange homemade clothes of animal skins, and with my long hair and beard. Then the oldest man spoke. "I am the captain of that ship," he said, "and these 2 men are my first and second officers. Last night there was a mutiny, and the seamen took the ship from me. Now they're going to leave the 3 of us here to die on this island." "Do these mutineers have guns?" "Only 2, he answered, "and they've left those on the boat." "All right," I said. "We'll fight them. But if we get your ship back for you, you must take me back to England." The captain agreed immediately, and thanked me very warmly for my help. Friday ran back to my house to get all the guns, and the captain and I made a plan. The first part was easy, because the seamen were not ready for a fight. We shot the 2 men at the boat, and the captain shot another man. This man, Tom Smith, was the worst of them all, and he began the mutiny on the ship. Then the captain talked to the other 5 men, and they agreed to help him. They did not really want to be mutineers, but they were afraid of Tom Smith. "Now," I said to the captain, "we must get back your ship. How many men are on it?" 26, the captain replied, "and they will fight hard because they won't want to go home. It is death for all mutineers in England. But not all the men are bad. I'm sure that some of them will help me." Just then we saw another boat which was coming from the ship to the shore. There were 10 men in it, and they all had guns. We ran into the trees and waited. It was a long, hard fight, but by now it was dark, and this helped us very much. We ran here and there in the trees, calling and shouting. The seamen could not see us, and did not know how many men they were fighting. In the end, the first officer shouted to them, "Put down your guns and stop fighting. The captain has 50 island people to help him. We can kill you all." So the seamen stopped fighting, and we took their guns. 3 of the men agreed to come back to the captain, and we put the others in my cave. Friday and I stayed to watch the prisoners, while the captain and his men went back to fight for the ship. All night we listened to the sound of guns and shouting. But in the morning, when the sun came up, the captain was master of his ship again. I went down to the shore to meet him. "My dear friend," he cried, "there's your ship. I'll take you to the ends of the world in it." I put my arms round him, and we laughed and cried together. How happy I was to leave the island. My good friend Friday came with me, of course, but we left the mutineers on the island. We decided not to kill them. They could begin a new life on the island. I showed them my 3 houses, my cornfields, and my goats, and all my tools. Their life would be easy, because of all my hard work for so many years. And so, on the 19th of December, 1686, after 27 years, 2 months, and 19 days, I said goodbye to my island and sailed home to England. Chapter 9. Home in England. When I came back to England, I felt like a stranger in the country. Many things were different, and not many people remembered me. I went home to York, but my father and mother were dead, and also my 2 brothers. I did find the 2 sons of one of my brothers. They were happy to learn that I was alive, and I was pleased to find some family. After some months, I decided to go down to Lisbon in Portugal. I had friends there who could help me to sell my land in Brazil, and I needed the money. Friday came with me. He was always a good and true friend to me. In Lisbon, I found the Portuguese captain, who took me in his ship to Brazil all those years ago. It was good to see him again, and he helped me with my business. Soon I was ready to go home again by land. No more adventures and dangers by sea for me. It was a long, hard journey. We had to cross the mountains between Spain and France in winter, and the snow was deep. Poor Friday was very afraid of the snow. In his country it was always hot, and he did not like cold weather. Back in England, I found a house and began to live a quiet life. My 2 nephews came to live with me. The younger one wanted to be a sailor, and so I found him a place on a ship. After a while I married and had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. Then my wife died, and my nephew, who was now the captain of a ship, came home to see me. He knew that I did not really like a quiet life. "I have a fine ship, Uncle," he said. "I'm going out to the East Indies, India, Malaya, the Philippines. Why don't you come with me?" And so, in 1694, I went to sea again, and had many more adventures. Perhaps, one day, I'll write another book about them.